Well, it's a pleasure to meet everyone. As David said, my name's Hector, Hector Martinez. I'm the Channel Sales and Educational Manager at DxO. And at DxO, we create image processing software for all demanding and serious photographers. What I like to say is you can spend 10 to 15 minutes in overwhelming post-productive workflows, or you can spend 3 to 5 minutes and move on in life. That being said, we're going to talk about 3 individual packages today. We're going to talk about DxO Optics Pro 10. This is the world's leading RAW converter currently on the market. We're going to talk about DxO Film Pack, which creates stunning black and white finishes. And then we're going to jump into Viewpoint, which specializes in perspective control and geometric corrections. We're also going to show you some tips and tricks how to integrate your workflow directly out of Lightroom. That's right, we're going to show you how to directly integrate your workflow out of Lightroom, because there's a couple of attendees here who are interested in knowing how's the post-productive workflow. So that being said, right now, I'm going to just launch DxO Optics Pro. This is the world's leading RAW converter on the market, 3 times faster than Photoshop and 3 times faster than Lightroom. This is the only software in the world that's strictly made for your hardware. It's tailored for your hardware. Just by a show of hands, how many of us are using Lightroom? Show of hands. How many of us are using Photoshop? Show of hands. Okay. This application can adapt to both workflows, but ideally what we specialize is in image quality. So right now I just so happen to be in my Organize tab. Our Organize tab gives us the capability of tapping into our main directory. There's no need to import your images into our application. We just thought it was a waste of time in the labs. So what we do is we just tap into the main directory, grab your information, and you go. You can clearly see that all my images are starting to show up in the film strip one by one. There's nothing that DxO cannot handle that I haven't run across. And as a fellow photographer, I like to think that we share the same common interest. We accommodate 90% of the cameras on the market. And there's that 10% gap. 10% gap being high-end, like medium format cameras, Hasselblads, Phase 1 digital backs, and the Fuji X-Trans system. But hopefully at some point you will see that change. Just to open up the general conversation, what started to get the general public to talk about us was our distortion fix. Automatically, the software is capable of recognizing EXIF and metadata information to give you the best image as possible. This was the original capture, and this is what we fixed in a fraction of the time. We're capable of fixing, perspective control issues, distortions, things of that nature. This is what started to get the general public to talk about us, our distortion fix. But if there's one thing that made us famous was our noise fix, because over the years, we've all had that one major issue, noise. We've moaned about 1200, we've moaned about 3200, 6400. What if we offered you a solution that can accommodate ISO levels over 400,000 ISO? It's completely unheard of. It's never been done. We're the only ones that can suppress noise levels over 400,000 ISO, completely linear and non-destructive. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to go into my Apply presets. Your Apply presets also gives you some general purpose presets for portraits, for black and whites, for atmospheres, and we're going to go over that. But right now I want to show you how we handle noise. I'm going to go up to my upper toolbar and I'm going to zoom in at a 1:1 ratio. You can clearly see just by looking at the image, there's absolutely nothing flattering about the image. There's a tremendous amount of digital noise. Hold on, let's just go to no corrections. Tremendous amount of digital noise. I mean, the thing looks like the Christmas tree on 42nd and Rockefeller, right? We need to fix this. Ideally, for a professional retoucher, it would probably take them about 35 to 40 minutes to clean this up accurately, but we don't have the time for that. We want to get in, we want to get out. I'm going to show you what we're capable of doing that no other image processing software is capable of doing. Food for thought, tip of the day, call this what you want. Just by utilizing your essential tools, and your light and color palette is guaranteed to accommodate 90% of your workflow. To accommodate 90% of your workflow, like maybe 3 to 5 years ago, we would work out of like maybe anywhere from 3 to 5 different applications. You would start off in Lightroom, jump into Photoshop, use all these crazy, creative plugins, and then you've accommodated 90% of your workflow. Those days are over. 10 to 15 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes. And I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. We're going to get rid of the noise now, though. So we're going to go to Essential Tools. We're going to drop down to our noise queue. We offered 2 different types of noise reductions. There's your high quality and our new Monstrosity Prime, our probabilistic raw image enhancement tool. We're going to select Prime, and you can clearly see now that the image is by far a lot cleaner. This is our original, and this is just giving you a general preview. But this is the beauty about this application. I'm capable of making corrections that's just humanly impossible to move this quick. And the beauty about it is I can adapt to any third-party host. So let's say, for instance, I'm happy with what this looks like. I just want to send this to Lightroom, or I want to send it to Photoshop or a third-party plugin. We're going to show you now how to adapt to any third-party host. You can go down to your lower film strip. You can select Export to Application, and then you actually have a drop-down menu dialog box that pops up indicating where do you want to send this, how do you want to push it out, and at what type of quality. I'm going to send this out to Photoshop. We're going to send this out as a 16-bit non-compressed TIFF. I shoot RAW all day, every day, but I process out as 16-bit non-compressed TIFFs. The beauty about this is, while this is fixing what's broken between the combination of the lens and the sensor, I can continue to move on forward in life. Move on to the next image. You can batch process 255 images in under 20 minutes. Depending on what's under the hood of the machine is going to determine how fast the engine's going to run. But ideally, all you need is about, I don't know, anything that you can purchase over the counter nowadays is sufficient. At least a 2 gig CPU, 4 gigs of RAM, and you're good to go. Dealing with exposures at times can be inconvenient, What if we could offer you a solution that could recover information that was 3 stops underexposed or 3 stops overexposed? It's completely unheard of. No one's been able to do this. But thanks to our talented technicians who evaluate these optics and these sensors, we're capable of recovering this information. And right before your eyes, another tool that you want to keep an eye out for under the Essential Tools is your DxO Smart Lighting tool. Your DxO Smart Lighting tool gives you the capability of recovering information that's underexposed and overexposed by not 3, but 4 full stops now in Optics Pro 10. It was black. Grab your intensity slider and just bring it back. Okay, this is a really good example. Right now, Photoshop has grabbed the file, and this is what we're stuck looking at. An image that's so clean you can nearly eat off of it at the end of the day. This was shot at 124,000 ISO. All the digital noise is gone. All the dead and hot pixels are gone. But most importantly, that one thing that we've been looking for throughout the years is sharpness uniformity. How many of us have ever used like a third-party denoising tool? Yes, it'll get rid of the digital noise. You're stuck with color noise, but that one annoying thing, it's soft, it's fuzzy. We can completely maintain sharpness uniformity unlike anyone else. Like, I know you're probably wondering, why haven't I heard about this product earlier? It's because we've been tearing apart every single camera that we can possibly get our grubby little hands on to give you the best tailored correction in the world. And this is what makes us so unique. The largest database in the world when it comes to dedicated optical modules. Chances are you have our technology in your pockets and you don't even know. How many of us are using like an Apple iPhone? Raise your hand. Our technology is in your pocket. Samsung Galaxy? Raise your hands. In your pocket. Nokias, MyWays, all those cool combinations. We've created tailored combinations for them. And you never have to go looking for this information. Anytime a new camera comes out and we're waiting for that third-party competitor to come out with that raw update, we all know who they are. They're stuck in the clouds while we're on the ground creating real image processing software for you demanding photographers. There's not one raw update that you have to sit and wait for. The day a camera's released, you're capable of opening up those raw files with no problem. There was a epidemic that kind of happened with like the D800s and the 5D Mark IIIs that when they first came out, no one was capable of opening up those raw files. On day one, just shoot raw, get and go. How many of us actually have issues with highlights and shadow details? Raise your hand. Pretty much everyone, right? I forgot who I'm talking to. Photographers, we all share the same common problems, right? I'm going to show you how we handle highlights and shadow details, and this is another major patented tool to keep an eye out for, which is our selective tone tool. Our selective tone tool actually gives you the capability of adjusting your highlights, your midtones, your shadows, and your absolute blacks all independently per channel. And we're also going to get into some like tips and tricks that you can do merging both products, it either being Lightroom or Photoshop. So let me just look up a good image where something like this you would figure is completely gone, but considering the fact that we're capable of giving you the full potential of your sensor, what we're going to do right now is we're actually just going to jump into our selective tone tool, which is another one of our patented tools. I'm going to manually adjust my highlights, make some adjustments on my midtones. Keep your main focus attention on the shadows. I assure you, you've never seen anything like this. We can open up shadows unlike anyone else, completely lenient and non-destructive, and just bring back all that quality that we're looking for. Split it in half. If you go all the way up on top, you can actually tap into your dual image display, and you can clearly see your before and your after. So the question of the day is, what do you want to be stuck with using as a background layer? You can be stuck using this, or you can be stuck using that. 90% of my workflow can be accommodated out of this one singular application. And I know it's a strong statement because people intend to look at me really weird when I say that. But I'm going to show you a real life situation that we're dealing with. And I'm also going to show you our new and improved dehazing tool. For any landscape photographer, this is a tool you must have in your digital post-productive workflow. It's a beautiful scenery. This was actually when I was out with one of my close friends, Big Hector, in Peru. We were out shooting and getting into car accidents. That's another story, but we're gonna show you exactly. So we were driving through the coast of Peru and I saw like this sheep herd and I was like, Hector, stop the car. I need to take a shot of this. Okay, this is great. Great foreground. My background, on the other hand, is garbage. You can see it's kind of flat, it's kind of muddy. This is being caused by atmospheric haze. We have a solution for this because our job is to simply make your images better. Your average retoucher would start getting into adjustment layers. If you're in Lightroom, we're gonna start getting to smart objects. Let's say I don't have that learning curve and I don't have time for an adjustment layer. You lost me. If we're in Lightroom and we're talking smart objects, okay, guess what? Hector's not that smart. You lost me again. What I am is lazy. I want to spend more time behind my camera and less time behind this. So what we're gonna do is, there's simple things you can do. Before you can start fiddling around with all like the individual presets, and this is the beauty about this application, it's a laboratory standard with the availability to fine tune at your own discretion. You can go to apply presets, and let's say you're not familiar with all the sliders. Start off with your DxO standard. Right? So you can clearly see just by selecting the standard, we made a slight difference. But I'm not really concerned about the foreground. It's that background I want to bring back to life. Our new and improved Clearview technology. There's plugins on the market that go anywhere from $80 to $100 to do this. You're doing this all out of one singular application that goes for like $149, $200 at most. DxO Clearview. Keep your main focus attention on the background. We're going to bring it right back. Done. Your before and your after. So while your competitor's stuck on that one singular project, you're breezing through these projects because you actually have an image processing software that has that muscle and that capability of just cutting your turnaround time in less than half. How many of us are actually practicing color management? Anyone a sucker for color like I am? Sweet, color management, right? White balance tools, your X-Rite passport, your data color spider checkers, all those fancy overwhelming tools that takes you about a week to figure out how to use properly, we're lazy. We've done all the color management ahead of time in our laboratories just to make your life easier, and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about as well. Okay. So for every sensor that we work on, we create a standardized ICC profile for every sensor. This is definitely something to look out for if you're really serious about color. And me, I'm huge about color. If it's not color accurate, I just don't want to look at it. So one thing to keep an eye out for is under your color palette, you're going to look up something called color rendering. Based off of your color rendering, you can select camera body, and you can tap into any dedicated ICC profile that we've created ahead of time in our labs. There's no need to rely on that white balance tool. Or you can even rip the color. This is also a nifty tool for any event photographer. Let's say the three of us are shooting an event right now, us three. I'm the Canon guy, she's the Nikon lady, and he's the Sony guy. So we have 3 different sensors that I'm working off of. I can select that whole film strip, select my Canon profile, and convert the color on her Sony and his Nikon so that it all looks like it came out of the same exact camera. So simply by doing that, you're just simply going to look up the profile or the camera. This is a 5D Mark III. Real simple. The minute I select the 5D Mark III profile, you're going to notice that there's going to be a bit of a color shift. So 5D Mark III. Go to 5D Mark III. And you notice that there was a bit of a color shift, making it by far a lot more accurate. So let's say, for instance, you're not into DxO. You don't like the interface. You don't like what it looks like. You're all about Lightroom. That's fine. We've done something that no one else has ever done, which is completely integrate into a Lightroom workflow, because a good share amount of us are using Lightroom. So let's do that. Let's go directly into Lightroom. Go into Lightroom. Go into Lightroom. Okay, so we're in Lightroom now. Let me just drag this over here. And I'm going to take you through the full post-productive workflow. I don't want you to feel like there's any empty gaps. We all know what this is, right? Good old faithful Lightroom. We're going to tap into the library, and we're going to import our images for the very first time. Because it's not all about DxO. You know, Lightroom does have its share of muscle and its power. Me personally, Lightroom has some sentimental value to me. There's other functionalities in Lightroom that just don't accommodate my needs. So let's just import our images as we would for any single time. If there's a couple of features in Lightroom I'm a huge fan for, I'm a huge fan of their web templates. People come into the studio, I'll create a contact sheet through their web module, send it to them in their emails. Great, I'm a rock star, because what would take me about 2-3 weeks to do literally took me a couple of seconds. Print, I could live without. Slideshow, let's be realistic. Books, I don't need it. Map, I remember where I was when I took my picture. The development module has been completely replaced from top to bottom by DxO Optics Pro, the library. That's the only thing that has sentimental value. Keywording, cataloging, if you're into that type of stuff, then Lightroom's right up your alley. If you're like me and you're kind of more of a traditional photographer and you do all your archiving manually, the library has no significant value whatsoever. But let's just say you're working out of a Lightroom fix, and you want to make corrections that you know DxO, that you know Lightroom can't handle. Something like this, we got some major issues going on here. This was shot with Nikon's 12-24, and you can clearly see just by looking at this lovely lady is not so lovely. She's completely distorted. Elongated shoulder. We need to fix this. I know Lightroom's not capable of handling this type of fix. So in a situation, what I would do is, I would go to File, plug in Extras, and I would transfer over to Optics Pro. Because Optics Pro is going to give me the best image quality over Lightroom, over any other application on the market. And then we're simply going to do this. If I was in Photoshop, you're going to create a duplicate layer, an adjustment layer. You're gonna use your liquefying tool, your free transformation tool, your perspective tool, and you're gonna put that fancy, expensive Wacom tablet that you have at home into some good use. I've been there before. I know I know the struggles. Those days are over now. What we're gonna do right now in order to fix this is we're actually gonna go under our viewpoint. Keep in mind, once you have Viewpoint and Film Pack installed on the same machine, they kind of attach themselves to the host. So consider Viewpoint and Film Pack parasites, and Optics Pro being the host. They're just going to attach themselves directly to the application. We're going to go to Viewpoint. We're going to go to Volume Deformation, which is just a really big fancy word that means warping and distortion, and bring everyone back. We can accommodate horizontal and vertical distortion, and we can also accommodate diagonal distortion. I'm done. All of a sudden, she's picture perfect. His head's not so big, her shoulder's not elongated, and her face is not distorted. From that point on, I can slingshot this information directly back into Lightroom. We're just gonna send this out as a quick little JPEG. Not only am I going to correct for the 4 optical flaws, which is distortion, vignetting, chromatic aberration, and lens softness, but we're also going to bring everyone back into place. So once I go into images, or let's just go here, not only have we made things and keep them organized, but we actually photo stack, where we keep the images together, where we keep everything organized. So you have your original version that remains untouched, and then you have your new and improved version that we've created and we fixed in our labs. How many of us are actually having issues with like backlit issues, or who's shooting landscapes here, or what type of issues are you dealing with? Okay, backlighting. So let's go into like an interesting backlighting issue that I know that Adobe just could not handle by itself. So let's do that and show you how well the application handles backlighting issues. So let's go, I had to go on, where is it? I had a really good example of a backlit issue. All right, we're gonna get into 2. Okay, 1, this is another backlit issue that I couldn't handle properly in Lightroom. So obviously what I would do in a fraction of the time, send it over to Plugin Extras, transfer over to Optics Pro. There's 2 issues. I got a distortion, I got a lighting issue, and my highlight issues. I've already fixed the distortion issue by default, once by bringing it into Optics Pro. Now I want to turn on the lights. You could easily go into your DxO Smart Lighting tool at this point. Select one of your drop-down menu presets if you like. Go into your selective tone tool, and then manually adjust your highlights and your midtones in the background. You're done. Export right back into Lightroom. What would take you 10-15 minutes, you've accomplished in like 3 to 5 minutes. That's the beauty about this application. There goes your before and after. Now for another issue, which was really extreme, and this was a good one too, because this was actually someone running across in the field, where we metered up for the highlights and the hues in the sky, and his face was completely washed out. So let's go here. Something like this, I know Lightroom cannot handle. That's the beauty about DxO. You're gonna fix what's broken between the combination of the lens and the sensor. In a situation like this, where I usually intend to tell people to start off on the very top of the ladder, which is your essential tools, and then gradually start working your way down. So with the exposure compensation, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just switch over to center weight, go to your DxO Smart Lighting, switch that over to a strong, and then from here in our selective tone tool, just manually start adjusting our highlights, our midtones. We can open up our shadows now, where we can start to recover the person's face. And then with the tone curve, we're just gonna create something known as inverted S-curve. Just to bring this back a little bit. And then from here, to top it off, if I really want to be anal retentive, I would tap into a dedicated color rendering. At that time, this was the D800. So we would look up this profile. Split it in half. I can continue to fine tune as much as possible as I want, but just to give you a general idea of where we're going, where we came from, this is just a quick little fix. Now, to accommodate 90% of your workflow before we get into the next application, I'm going to show you how to do that too. And this is all real life situations here. This was actually based off of a landscape image we're going to work off of. So let's go here. This is actually a good one. Okay, in a situation like this, if I'm in Photoshop, we're talking major adjustment layers. One for the foreground, one for the background. I'd probably create an adjustment layer for the clouds to make them stand out, and one for the sky. Easy, 10, 15 minutes, some fancy dancing of the Wacom tablet, and I'm done. Those days are over. Usually I intend to tell all my attendees and followers, start from the top of the ladder. You want to get a quick head start, go to Apply Presets, select your DxO standard, and some of the standardized corrections are already going to be implemented, such as white balancing, your smart tool, your noise reduction. But just to bring this back to life real quick, we're going to get rid of some of the atmospheric haze with the new and improved DxO Clearview. So we're going to bring that up. We've done some major improvements in the micro contrast slider, and I'm going to show you the micro contrast slider to create some stunning black and white finishes if you're into that. But there's a lot of power now in the micro contrast slider. Color accentuation is another tool to keep an eye out for, because we can actually tell the difference between actual vibrancy and saturation. So usually I intend to leave my vibrancy levels anywhere from like 25 to 50, but for this one I'm going to leave it at 50 just for it to stand out a bit. Create another inverted S-curve. And there goes your before and after. All that fine detail, all that information has been recovered because everyone throughout the years has been giving us half the potential of what our sensors have to offer. Just by a show of hands, how many of us are creating or into like black and white photography? Black and whites, anyone? Okay, I'm going to show you how to make some really stunning black and whites utilizing the next application that we're going to talk about, which is DxO Film Pack. I know you're probably wondering, there's a lot of black and white companies on the market, but we like to think our solution's a bit different for the simple fact that this is actually based off of real black and white film. So let's find a good one. Once again, this is another laboratory standard with the availability to fine tune at your own discretion. We're going to use this as a first example, and then we're going to move around. There's two ways of using this application. You can drive it directly out of Optics Pro if you want to make your life easy. You don't necessarily have to jump from application to application. You can drive it directly out of Photoshop or Lightroom as a plugin, or you can even so happen to use it as a standalone application. I'm just so happen to use it as a standalone application just to give everyone a general idea of how the application works. And this is DxO Film Pack 5. The difference between this application and other applications, while other competitors are mimicking and simulating black and white, this is a full-blown emulation. And what I mean by that is we're capable of picking up more colors, 256 shades of black, white, and gray, opposed to 156 shades of black, white, and gray like our competitors do. You can tap into your catalog and just start opening up all your images all at once. But let's just go into this real quick. We're also capable of opening up JPEGs, TIFFs, in-camera DNGs or even RAW files. It doesn't matter. So that shouldn't be an issue for you. Where is that information at? Okay, portraits. Okay, so now that we have our film strip open up, we can easily just start cascading through all the individual images that we want to look out for. Create signature looks, do all types of crazy things like that. But what we're gonna do right now is just create like a really nice flattering black and white off of a portrait, and we're also gonna do one off of a landscape. So, and a scenery. Let's do a scenery as well. Let's go with this one for, there's so many to choose from, it's all hard. Okay, let's do this one. Not only can you do black and white, you can do some color negative film, some color positive film, but the sole purpose is our black and whites. I can't even begin to explain how important it is to practice color management when getting into an application like this. X-Rite, Color Monkey, Data Color Spider, those are really two good solutions to create profiles for your monitor. So right now we're just gonna go into the black and whites. So let's filter that out. As I start going through all the individual black and whites, you can clearly see that the true emotion of that traditional analog film is coming back to life as far as the color, the contrast, the saturation, but most importantly, that traditional analog film grain that we're looking for. See, the reason why I like this application is not only is it giving me that laboratory standard, but I can fine tune this at my own discretion in the sense where I remember there was a time where I used to buy tremendous amounts of Pro Packs of like Kodak T-Max 3200. It was one of those mixed emotion films. So I'm gonna select that profile. From this point on in the advanced control palette, I can create this and make this my own signature look. If there's certain things, if there's certain tools that you need to keep an eye out for when using this application, for me, I'm a fan of the film grain. I like creating like all these silky smooth black and white finishes. Not only have we studied regular medium format, large format, and custom formats, but you can also create like your own customized formats where you can manipulate the film grain. If I take the intensity slider and I amplify the film grain, you can see that the film grain gets really heavy and dense. If I drop it down, it gets really clean and smooth. Now, as far as the development tools, the contrast slider is a must look into. How many of us were actually familiar with the company by the name of like Nick Silverfx? You ever heard of that? Nick Silverfx? Okay. What made Nick Silverfx so popular was their contrast slider. We actually give you 2 full gains off of Nick Silverfx's contrast slider. If you keep your main focus attention on the lovely lady's face, which is not too hard, what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna bring out the micro contrast. Your regular contrast works like any other contrast slider. The micro contrast boosts up the micro contrast slider, and then the fine contrast just relies on like these little crannies to bring them out. You can clearly see now that we have more of a grungy look, or more of a standout look. Ideally, if you were in Photoshop and wanted to do this, you'd have to do a technique utilizing the high bypass filter and the unsharpen mask tool, create an adjustment layer, and then just start paintbrushing all these little detailed crannies that you want. But we've done this all in one singular slider. This is the beauty about these applications. They just completely work for you, opposed against you. Now, obviously, when you have your everyday, traditional analog film, when we shot film, we use traditional analog plug-in filters. Our red, our blue, our green filters. So we gave you all those patented filters that you can use. If I start selecting each individual filter, you can clearly see that the tonality is starting to shift on her face. But once again, this is another tool that's completely fine-tunable just by utilizing the density slider. And then when I'm done, me personally, I would probably crop off I'm not all about automatically cropping, so usually what I do is when I crop, I always leave my show grid, and then as far as aspect ratio goes, I always switch that over to an unconstrained so I can have full control of the crop. Cropping's more of a personal preference. It's whatever or whichever way you're feeling that day. But if I was to crop out, this is probably where I would leave it at. Leave it really tight on her face because as I was taught by my mentor, you know, the name of the game is to always try to fill up that frame and keep your real estate occupied. So something like this, I would definitely keep an eye out for. You can also create your own signature looks. Like let's say, for instance, if you were a really big fan of this signature black and white, I can create a preset, attach it in an email, and send it off to a friend. Or you can even go to our website, which is DxO.com, and download styles for free. It's like a community where we're just sharing information because good information is free information, right? Not always, but sometimes it is. Let's get into another landscape now. And we're just gonna get a little artsy with this one because time's going by fast, faster than I thought it would. And I wanna spend at least 10, 15 minutes just going over any general questions that anyone might have. So let's go into landscape real quick. Let's try to hit okay, this is decent. Okay, for a situation like this, let's say if I wanted to go the color route, and let's say I'm not all about black and white, I'm more of a color person. So let's go into color. So what we're gonna do now is we're actually just gonna go back to into our presets. And we could do several things. We can go based off of our favorite presets. We can go into the filters and just select color film. But let's go into like the negative films and the slide films. So let's do that. You can even sort or search them by choice, but let's just go into like some of the slide films. All right, for this particular scene, I would probably use Fuji Velvia or something like that. And this is just more of a personal preference. So I'm just gonna go in the search engine and just type in Fuji. Let's see what we got here. Let's go into the, what's going on here, buddy? Okay, so here are all our Fuji films that we have to go. Like you can even emulate what a Fuji Instax looks like. There's also been implemented some dead stock films. There's certain films on the market that you just necessarily can't find anymore because they no longer make them. We actually evaluated and studied that film to bring it back into life. So for this one, I'm probably gonna go with the Fuji, Velvia 100. A little bright for some, but I kind of like it because it gives that foliage of the grass a really nice big pop. Even if I wanted to bring it out a little bit more, I can go into my HSL slider and bring it out a lot further, but I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I actually just want to tap into the micro contrast and bring out all the fine details in the sheep herder and in the sheep. So let's do that. And that's probably where I would leave it at for this particular one. Now we're just gonna get a little creative. How many of us actually remember, like, if you ever shot analog film, how many of us actually remember, like, soft focus lenses or buying a cheap $6 UV filter, putting Vaseline on the outskirts to get it that really, that really nice soft depth of field in the background. For newcomers, they call them lens babies nowadays, right? We brought all those pieces of hardware into our labs to see how they tick and talk to be able to create this. How many of us have images that look like this? All of us, right? Buildings falling backwards, right? Murphy's Law, what can go wrong will go wrong. You can stay in an overwhelming post-productive workflow for a couple of minutes, or you can just knock it out the box. Go to your perspective tool, and what we're gonna do is, this is completely based off of horizontal and vertical perspective controls. Literally 10 to 15 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes. What I'm doing is I'm just utilizing the best horizontal or vertical reference points and then apply the correction, and then you're done. Your building's sitting right side up. in a fraction of the time. Now, I know you're probably thinking that's not that big of a correction, so let's try to push it a little bit further if we can. Now, for the interior photographer, let's show you guys how this would work for your interior photographer. We're gonna throw two situations for the interior photographer and copy work, right? Sometimes you have to shoot at that skewed perspective. Sometimes you can't use flash, sometimes you can. With us, we're gonna use our exclusive 4-point rectangular tool. I'm gonna go down to the lower film strip and I'm gonna switch it over to a distinctive green. What we can do from this point on is we're actually gonna use the 4-point rectangular tool and utilize our both horizontal and vertical reference points to rip this frame off the wall and bring it right in front of your face. I'm done. Apply the correction. Unlike any other image processing software on the market, we're the only ones that actually give you the capability of utilizing your whole entire canvas size, while other competitors kind of deprive on how much you can stretch that rubber band. Not with us. I mean, we don't believe in giving you the tip. We give you the whole entire thing. We like to think that we spend good dollars on our cameras and our hardware, so we want you to be able to reap the full potential of those sensors. I'm done. There goes your picture frame sitting right in front of your face. Now, this application is capable of replacing any fisheye or any tilt and shift lens on the market. You can spend $1,200 to $1,300 on a tilt and shift lens, or you can spend on special $50, on regular retail $80 on viewpoint, and just do all these special perspective control corrections. For a correction like this, ideally, you would need a 6-foot ladder and a really expensive tilt and shift lens. But considering the fact we already know what makes these things tick and talk, we're capable of just defining physics, is what I like to say, because it's not it's not black magic, it's not smoke and mirrors. What it is, it's really aggressive algorithms and embedded science. The embedded science is us studying the lenses, studying the sensors to give you this type of correction. Another thing that you should always keep an eye out for when using viewpoint, the loop tool. The loop tool is a major asset. It's there to help you, it's there as a reference point. Pixel per inch, if you keep your main focus attention on that little anchor point, you can clearly see that it's moving pixel per inch. I can do this with my cursor keys, I can do this with my Wacom tablet, I can use this with my mouse. If you do this with your mouse, the only thing I would strongly suggest doing is adjusting the ratio speeds in your mouse so that your anchor point doesn't go flying across the screen. Trying to make a correction like this in an overwhelming post-productive workflow, I'm not even going to begin to explain what type of nightmares you're going to go through. But considering the fact we're in tune with the hardware, we just offer you that 35% more fine-tuning control. And I'm done. Hold on, let's fix this over here. Done. Apply a correction, there goes your building sitting right side up. And even if you wanted to fine tune the crop, you can always go into the crop and just fine tune your crop at your own discretion. That's the beauty of having the whole entire canvas size at your discretion to work off of. Go here and apply. So you literally went from there to there in a fraction of the time. That's the beauty of what we're doing in our labs. My name's Hector. I'm going to be sticking around for the next additional 10-15 minutes or so. But if you have any questions or concerns, please, by all means, feel free to approach me. If you're ever at a local event, stop by and say hello. And always check out into the B&H event space. We're always doing more classes and things of that nature. This was more troubleshooting and technical hands-on, but we also get into some creative classes where we teach you how to create more signature looks and things of that nature in other classes. And stay tuned to our website where you can attend one of our free webinars. But on that note, thank you so much for attending. And like I said, if you have any questions, just feel free to approach.
Whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, B&H has the answers to your questions. Experience a world of technology at our New York City Superstore. Connect with us online or give us a call. Our staff of experts is happy to help.